So let me now add something else into the mix. I want to talk about foreign objects. And I'm not talking about aliens. I'm talking about things that are left inside of you. So let me give you this scenario. John is 30 years old, recently married. He's been married for a year. He and his wife have been trying desperately for a year to start a family. And no matter what they do, she can't get pregnant. So they both decide to go for fertility testing. Turns out, his wife, everything's working inside. What's the problem? The problem is John. John's got the problem. His urologist tells him, listen, my testing reveals that you have a blockage in your spermatic cord, which is the tube that leads from the testicle up and out. You're producing sperm, but it's not coming out the way it's supposed to. He's like, and the doctor's asking him, have you ever had a history of a problem with, surgery or trauma to your groin, to your testicle? And he says, you know what? I do remember something now. When I was 8 years old, I remember having to go to the emergency room because my testicle twisted. That's something known as testicular torsion. And before the blood flow got cut off, the doctors in the emergency room were able to untwist it. So I was thankful that I remember my mom telling me that I was thankful that they were able to do it without needing surgery. But the doctor told his mom something. The doctor said, you know what? In order to prevent this condition from occurring again, what we can do is we can put in a couple of stitches to attach the spermatic cord to the scrotum so this won't happen again. And mom doesn't know any better. She says, okay, go ahead. And this was a simple procedure. And John had no problem for the next 22 years until he's trying to have a baby. Now he learns for the very first time that his spermatic cord was closed off by one of those stitches that happened when he was 8 years old. In order to understand now, as you're learning this information, whether or not John may have the ability to go ahead and sue the doctor who put those stitches into him when he was 8 years old, 22 years earlier, we have to be able to answer this question. Was the thing that was left inside of him something that was intended to remain inside? Or is this something that was never intended to remain inside? Answering that question will give you the answer of whether or not John can bring a timely case. So let's look at it. This was a stitch, a few stitches that was intended, right? It was designed to keep the spermatic cord in place with the scrotum. These stitches were what? Were they intended to remain in place? Or was it something that never should have stayed in place? Right. The answer is it was intended to remain in place. In that instance, John would only get the benefit of, if he were an adult, 2.5 years from the date of the wrongdoing in which to file a lawsuit against the doctor who put those stitches in. Now, the fact that John was 8 years old, going back at that time, he would then have the benefit of until the time he turned the age of majority. And again, there may be some instances where we can extend that a little bit, but even if we could extend it till he was 21, he's now 30 years old. Can John still bring a lawsuit against that surgeon from the emergency room? The answer, absolutely not. Unfortunate for John. And you may say to yourself, wait a second, but John didn't know about the wrongdoing. How could he have possibly brought a lawsuit against this doctor if he did not know that there was a problem? Well, the law doesn't look at it that way. The law only looks at it and says, hey, listen, you can only bring a lawsuit from the date of the wrongdoing, not from the date of discovery, unless, here's an exception. So now let's take the scenario of Ellen. Ellen was having hernia repair surgery. And the surgery was going beautifully. And the doctor, he's about ready to close up and finish up the surgery. And as he's closing, the tip of the needle that he's using to sew her up breaks off. And he's looking and he's digging and he's trying to find where this tip of the needle went. He can't find it. He gets an instrument, a long instrument with a magnet at the end to try and find it. He can't find it. He takes an X-ray to try and identify where the tip of the needle is. They can't find it. And finally, after about 15, 20 minutes, the doctor says, you know what? I'm going to leave it there. It's not going to cause her any problem. And you know what? Since I don't think it'll cause any problem, I'm not even going to tell her about it. Okay? They finish the surgery. Ellen goes home. No problem until 3 years later. Lo and behold, she develops back pain, severe back pain. She can't figure out why. She goes to her orthopedist. He doesn't understand why she's having this back pain. Takes an x-ray. Mrs. Jones, come here, you got to see this. There's something sharp in your back. We got to take it out. I don't know what it is. Have you had surgery recently? No, the only surgery I had was 3 years earlier. I had a hernia repair. Well, however it got there, that's the only way it could have gotten there. We need to go in and remove it. So now Ellen has the surgery. She has it surgically removed, and now she recuperates. And she tells you the story, and you're sitting listening to her wondering, gee, is this timely? This happened 3 years earlier. I know that it's normally 2.5 years from the date of the wrongdoing in which to bring a lawsuit for a private doctor or private hospital. But there's something known as the date of discovery rule. Does she get the benefit of this option? And by the way, for foreign objects in New York, as of today, November 19th, if there is a foreign object, you have 1 year from the date of discovery in which to file a lawsuit. But before you can take advantage of that, let's ask the question. Was this needle tip something that was intended to remain inside of the patient? Or is it something that never, ever should have been left inside? What's the answer? Correct. Okay? This is not something that the doctor originally intended to leave inside. Ultimately, when he couldn't find it, he chose to leave it in. And the fact that he didn't tell the patient is another issue, another problem he's got. But the fact is, the needle tip is something that never should have been left inside. So in that instance, Ellen has 1 year from the date of discovering this, where the doctor says, Mrs. Jones, look at this. You can't believe this. You've got this thing in your back here. We got to get it out. She'd have 1 year. Now, there is a little caveat that you need to know about. This is 1 year from the date of discovery. But the caveat is, or when she reasonably should have known that there was something inside of her. That's a key point. And that, there's plenty of case law on that.